Hi everyone, welcome back to the Art of Safe Scumming. Today we're doing another campaign review, this time for Clan Skryre, headed up by Ikit Claw. And this is where it all started, folks. The original concept of a curb stomp campaign in Total Warhammer, right here, all the way back in Warhammer 2, with the Ikit Claw campaign. And I will get into why that is here in a second, but he starts at Skavenblight, which you can see we have a tier 5 Skavenblight, which you can do pretty quickly. As the Skaven in general, but also as Ikit Claw. There's a little bit that we'll get into as far as making that happen. But first off, Ikit Claw himself. Why is this faction so powerful? We'll get to here in a moment, but it starts sort of with Ikit Claw. This skill line looks very similar. Blue line, red lines, spellcaster line. He is a ruin caster, very much like a souped up warlock master. And this looks very much like a Warlock Master, except for right here, think of this as greater Arcane Conduit, basically. But this is where he really shines. He has two unique lines that kind of play together. This first one is 10% cooldown for spells. This one is Warlock Engineer's capacity and loyalty for Warlock Masters. Skaven, for the most part, have a loyalty mechanic. This one is Warp Fuel. We'll get to the Warp Fuel here in a second. I don't really use this one because it has to do with his Flamer ability while he's on foot, but he very quickly gets a Doom Flare and a Doom Wheel. I prefer the Doom Flare because he's faster and smaller, and when we get to his army composition, you'll see that that's kind of critical. I also don't use this one very often, except for I got extra points. Maybe I'll put it there because I don't really use these units all that much. And then Doomsday Scientist, this is his Brass Orb ability upgraded. So there you have it. And then this one, his sort of second line that soups him up. Physical resistance, melee attack if you want it, weapon strength if you want it. Double insulation, fire resistance, and spell resistance if you want it. I prefer to go with the jetpack, which is speed and charge bonus, because that's how I typically use him. Hit points, always good. And then you have your choice of either Adrenaline Rush, which is armor-piercing weapon damage and unbreakable, or Second Wind Serum, which heals him every single time he casts. Obviously, I go for that one, right? So that in itself makes him pretty powerful as far as just being able to go down range and harass the enemy. His quests, he only has one of them, and it is, because he starts with one item already. And the set bonus gives you control +1 and construction cost for all buildings -10. So you're very heavily incentivized to do that. But Storm Demon also gives you bonus versus large, control all provinces, armor-piercing weapon damage, and the Storm Demon ability, 2 uses of that. And then his other item, this one, gives him armor, weapon strength, physical resistance yet again. So his items do interplay, but you start with this one right off the get-go. And then his army composition, final army composition, should look something like this. Pretty much your standard weapons team. You're going out there for the purposes of putting enemies in an attacking posture so that you can obliterate them. And you can do that with minimal casualties every single turn, fighting 10+ battles if you want to, in many instances, with taking 0 casualties. And basically what that army composition looks like is him to go down range, harass the crap out of the enemy, something for casualty replenishment, so that when you do take casualties, you have the ability to recover them in one turn. And I use an assassin for that. A Warlock Engineer, this increases the range of the army as well as the movement capabilities of on the overworld map, increases their damage, etc., etc. The Warlock Engineer is one of the most powerful heroes in the game. We don't need to rehash that. And then 4 somethings to hold the enemy back. I have a combination of Plague Priests here with the Vermintide ability, and these guys here with these ones. You put these on the very perimeter. They're really good for tying up cavalry units while you bring your Jezzails onto those cavalry units that have made it around the flanks to wipe them out. The front line is 4 rattling guns, some arcing fire from both the Poison Wind Mortar, and then at a little bit lower trajectory and more range, the Plague Claw catapults. So that is his army in a nutshell. And I put this army together by like turn 15 or something like that, and it's just been rampaging across the map ever since. You can trade these guys out for Plague Priests, but getting these guys and a couple Plague Priests is faster, and you can get him out onto the map more quickly. We're going to get to the Forbidden Workshop here in a second, but I want to talk about Skavenblight itself because it has 3 unique structures when playing as Ikit Claw. I believe this one and this one are available for every single faction, but only this one is available for Ikit Claw. So the Warpstone Tractor Beam, food generation 8, research rate 10, recruit rank for artillery units, winds of magic capacity +2, all armies. And then this one allows you to do stuff with the Under Empire that you can't in any other faction because of the rate that you can do stuff. So Under Empire turn cooldown -5. So it normally takes 10. Now it only takes 5 whenever you want to expand the Under Empire with a warlock engineer. And then this one, the Council Chambers of 13, control +1 faction-wide, control for the local province, 13, Lord recruit rank +2, corruption +1, income from all buildings in the local province, 6%, and then global recruitment capacity +1 faction-wide. So getting this up to tier 5 rapidly can really set your campaign on fire. And basically, what keeps you from doing that initially is Morgur sets up his herdstone here, and this falls into that region. So even if you get the food, you can't push it up. So you basically have to make a beeline straight from Morgur. So I suggest you do it like this. You attack here, you attack here, you attack here, take all 3 of those settlements. You then join war with Astalia against Morgur, wipe him out, trade the settlements to Astalia for a non-aggression pact, and then take your Doom, your Scheme of Doom guy over here and send him right here to form that first Undercity and spread it whenever possible. You can see that I've also used them as a convenient farm, and I've moved them into Bretonia here as well, to further expand the abilities with the Under Empire. So you can do a lot with the Under Empire. If you look here, the Under Empire is producing 22 extra food, and that is in addition to losing 3 food. Is this 3 food? 2 food, excuse me. 2 food here, 2 food there, 2 food there, 2 food there. And there should be 1 more of those somewhere. Right there. Going to lose 2 more food there. I don't know if I covered this one already, but that one. So you can generate a crap load of food every turn by doing that and using that mechanic that way. And that is really only possible with Ikit Claw, given that he has this building here and can do it I suppose any faction can do it, but he has access to this the earliest. So pumping that up to tier 5 gives you a really solid settlement. The other thing that that Skavenblight is really good for is defense. No matter how you slice it, you have at least one additional turn of warning for any attack that is coming on Skavenblight, regardless of where they come from. So in order for a unit, excuse me, not a unit, an army to get here, even if we're talking about armies that have underway capability, like the dwarves that start here, the greenskins that start here, or the wood elves over here, they have to come down to here. They will be visible, and then they have to underway into this area. If not, then if I were to just raise like Snitch here, look at how much movement it takes to get there from here. Same thing over here. It takes several turns to get there. So even if they come from over here, they have to underway in, and to underway in, they have to come to right here to be able to reach. If they're any farther away than right there, they can't really make it into this region. In fact, I would say that they've got that much space. You can always see them coming in, and after they underway, then they're not going to have a movement capability. So you basically see them underway, see them getting ready to underway, see them getting ready to underway, or they're just going to straight up try to march into your territory. And you have plenty of time to raise an army, especially when you consider the recruitment slots that you have. So, very, very powerful location because it is surrounded by this wasteland here, this swampy area. And it just makes movement into the region completely impassable. Same thing with if you're coming from the sea here. So, even if you come from the sea, you have to offload into the region, and you can see here that there's more than one turn's worth of movement there. Even for a legendary lord like Snitch. Oh, actually, now that I look at it, yeah, all of his... So that's without any movement buffs. More than one turn of movement once you're on land, and you deplete some of that movement when you go to land. So you got to come on to the land, and then you got to take up that little bit of movement, and then you can attack. So you've got 2 turns coming from the water. So it's almost impossible to assault Skavenblight. And then, of course, look at that healthy garrison. So Skavenblight is an awesome defensive location. Great place to start. You can get dogpiled on if you don't expand quickly. And I actually went this way, where I stayed out of Araby over here and went this way, selling all the land to Skryre as I went for the purposes of building more undercities. And then I've obviously moved up into this region over here, you know, getting as much property as possible so that I could thoroughly expand. The other place that's a really good area for land acquisition is here because it's got the same sort of problems. It's pretty difficult to move through this region because it's all swampy. The Skaven excel at this. So that brings us up to the Forbidden Workshop. Forbidden Workshop is his special mechanic, and this is pretty crazy when it comes to power. Now, I typically focus on the weapons teams area because I use the most weapons teams in my my campaigns. So you upgrade these and you get like a banner, another banner, then you get a special warfire thrower that goes into your regiments of renown, followed by a special Jezzail, followed by a special rattling gun. If you go to the other ones, you get an item, an item, an item, an item, and then a special unit. Same thing with the Doom Flayers over here. Now, the thing about the Doom Flayers and the Doom Wheels is this applies to any characters that are on the map. So it does mean that if you're going to have a bunch of Warlock masters running around, that you should probably spend some points in here. Now, I went very heavy for Confederation, so most of my pool, if we were to... Sorry, that's the wrong button. If we were to go in here, most of my pool is going to be these guys. So I get 10 every single time I bring one of these guys up to level 13. They get the Envoy of the Horn Rat. Or, excuse me, Envoy of the Council. Plus 10 relations with Skaven. That's pretty important when you're trying to make confederations. Now, back to the Forbidden Workshop. So I go very heavy into this area over here. Each time you do an upgrade, it costs you warp fuel, which you get from battles, and food. The other thing that you have access to are the Doom Rockets. These are literal nuclear weapons that you can use in a battle. I always have at least one sitting there in reserve to make sure that if I get into a pinch, I can get myself out of it. This allows you to mount a defense in regions that are otherwise undefendable. Battles that are absolutely unwinnable.
Move, Ron! This is moved! Scupper down! Not the desire! Back underground!
Awesome ability, and it does absolutely level the playing field. It is something that is absolutely hilarious to use. The last thing I want to cover are the differences between, well, I suppose I got two more things that I would like to cover. The Undercities for Clan Skryre. They have a special mechanic just like Skrulk does, and it's this one, the Doomsphere. This settlement will be raised upon completion. It takes 15 turns, and it has a discoverability of 160. So you have to build this and this to full level. So minus 40, minus 40 to give yourself a plus 80 so it's not discovered, and it's got to last for 15 turns. You can see here I'm trying to revive Skrulk, or not Skrulk, Throt. And to do that, I've got an Undercity that's going to spawn a Vermintide over here. This is going to spawn the next turn, or that turn I'm going to move him. The next turn, this will explode. I will occupy the ruin, and I will not be at war with the Empire having done that. And you could do a whole lot of that sort of stuff because of that previous mechanic that we talked about with the Under Empire through Skavenblight. Now, the last thing that I really want to cover is confederations with Clan Skryre. Because Clan Skryre has such a powerful setup, really, you don't really need to confederate really anyone if you're going full weapons team, because you are the full weapons team. You have the best settlement in the game, and really there's no reason that you have to confederate anybody else. The only one that is probably worth confederating are Skrulk and Queek. And the reason that I think that Queek is important is because if you're going into Bretonnia, you're going to want a lot of storm vermin to hold against the Cav. You just simply are not going to be able to hold back all that Cav with your standard use. You get a full stack of horses and flying Pegasus and all that sort of stuff. You're going to need some anti-large line holders, and this is one of the instances where storm vermin halberds are absolutely something that you should consider when it comes to building your army. Here's my anti-Bretonian army, and I will have a video coming out on how to use this particular army. I'm going to be starting a new series on different, interesting engagements as far as different factions are concerned. So this army gets considerably easier to build with Queek. The other thing that is maybe important is the Clan Pestilence confederation, because it helps you with the overall expenditure on your Plague Claw catapults and things like that. So it's not that you can't supplement those some other ways, but having the Clan Pestilence Confederation is a boon. When it comes to everybody else, Tretch, not really worth it. Throt doesn't really matter because he just does the stuff for his own army. I'd say you don't really need to do anything with those guys. I would focus on making sure that you keep Skrulk alive and make sure that you keep Queek alive. If you can pick up one of those other confederations along the way, then cool. The other one that you might consider that I had an opportunity to get was Snitch, and he's really good for a hit-and-run army. If you want to export war somewhere, I have a full video on the campaign review for Clan Eshin and why I think that he is the best at exporting war. So you might consider that confederation for the purposes of sending a stack out into the world for the purposes of just raiding everything, sort of like what I have going on over here, where I've ripped through Cathay with these trash armies that I've Vermintided. And you can see that I've got a fair number of undercities going over here in Cathay for the purposes of just garnering a whole lot of food. Snitch has extra ambush success chance and campaign movement range. It's a take it or leave it. It's up to you. But for exporting war, in my opinion, this is a really awesome confederation. But your mileage may vary. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching The Art of State Scumming. Let me know who you want to see next.
Council's command! Now, yes! Of play! Move, run! Plague priest! Heal, beast pets! Poison wind mortar! Rattling gun! Our tail's yours! Skaven, yes, yes! Ikit Claw!